Welcome back to the BettorOff Podcast, episode something or other. Today we're going to be talking about the Imola Grand Prix, among other things, in addition to how I lost all of my bets. Today's episode is brought to you by Visine, because up here in the Northeast, it is like ridiculous allergy weather, and I'm getting murdered.
I'm with you there. I wish Visine
yeah.
would sponsor us, because if I could have a year's supply of that just stored around my house in different places, I would love it. So Visine, if you're listening, you know where to find us.
Of course, Visine. Visine is always listening. So we are better off. This is the BettorOff Podcast. We are going to be talking about Imola, but we do more than Formula One. Harry, would you tell our millions and millions of dedicated, shirtless fans what BettorOff is, where you can find us, and clearly why it's going to cost them a ton of money? Because a product as amazing as the BettorOff platform has to cost a lot of money, right?
I mean, that's what you would think. We are better
It
off,
is what-
obviously. We are an app that you can find available on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store.
Both?
Actually, the last time I checked, it was free, which is a little bit crazy, but I've heard it's
What?
free. Yep. And it's
Wait,
a one-stop
so
shop
it's
where you can
free.
track bets, you can get advice for bets, you can trash talk your friends, see if they're doing poorly. All that for free. A freemium model, you can pay for picks, for advice, you can have people pay for your picks if you're good enough. You can follow Alex and I. Tell us we suck.
I need a 30. Give me a timeout. Are you saying that not only can our legions of fans go on the BettorOff app to follow people, but they themselves can enrich their lives, monetarily speaking, by selling their own picks?
That's what I'm saying. Prove
And we're
you're the
gonna let
best
them
of the
do this
best.
We're going to let them do this for free.
Yep. Prove you're the best of the best. Sell your picks, trash talk your friends, all of that. Find us on the App Store, BettorOff, 2 O's. And, yeah. So, we're talking about
not
Imola.
in a row.
Not in a row.
Two T's in a row, 2 F's in a row. The O's are separated.
Separated by just 1 R.
Just the R.
Yeah, so, if you like our content, make sure you're commenting, and subscribing. We'd love to talk about, get your guys' opinions on what we say, if we're stupid, if we miss something important, if we're giving too much time to anything. Let us know down below. We'll be sure to respond to those. But yeah, let's talk about the Imola Grand Prix. What were your first? We watched it
Imola
together, but we didn't really break it down together. So what were your first reactions?
My first reactions were that I made a lot of bets and lost all of them, which is Costanza-esque. Like, if I can keep that up, then my BettorOff paid channel could just be the fade master. And like, whatever I put there, people should pay to just bet the opposite, because I lost this is impressive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 bets, only 2 of which were parlays. Like, that's just statistically improbable. And I'm going to get into the people who screwed me the hardest. But
yeah, we'll get into that.
But my thoughts on the race were second race of the season, second really, really fun race of the season, other than me losing money. We've seen in the F1 era of the last 8 years, just sort of like Mercedes and then Ferrari's there and they're not there. These are close races. We don't know who's going to podium. We don't know who's going to win. We don't know if Valtteri Bottas is actually a good driver anymore. Then add the rain. And Imola is a great track because there's so much speed. The only downside is that, these straightaway tracks don't eat up your tires that much, so you don't get as much pit stopping. But we'll get into that and how Lewis Hamilton is clearly in league with Satan. I thought it was a really, really fun race to watch, and then lose all my money and not have as much fun.
Yeah, and regardless of if you're losing money or making money, I think we can all agree it's just a really good race. I mean, these are the races we've been promised ever since Verstappen's been in F1, and Red Bull's kind of been unable to match Mercedes, so we haven't gotten them. Verstappen's been hailed as the next Hamilton, the next dominant figure in the sport. So it's really good to see them go head to head. Maybe it's just going to be for one season if Hamilton calls it a quits. I think it's going to be more, but I'm excited for the whole season.
What else is Hamilton going to do? He's going to be a knight of the British Empire. He and like Elton John and David Beckham are just going to hang around and like light cigars with 100-pound notes. Like, what else do you have to do? You're a race car driver.
I don't
You're
know.
going to end up like
That doesn't sound too
you're
bad.
going to end up like who is it who was doing Mercedes Heineken commercials with his
Nico
father?
Rosberg.
Yeah, you're gonna end up like Nico Rosberg doing Mercedes Heineken commercials with your father and just like not knowing what to do. He's gonna be there for a while.
But I think Rosberg's doing just fine. I don't think we have to worry about him.
He's doing fine too, but like, okay.
All right.
Anyway,
so
can we talk about Mercedes?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Because Mercedes started, all the stories surrounding Mercedes started in qualifying. Practice 1, practice 2, they're top of the sheet. Bottas, I think, got fastest in one of the practices, and then we get to qualifying. Hamilton gets pole by less than a tenth on both Verstappen and Perez, and then Bottas is all the way down there in 8th, 4.5 tenths off. And now 4.5 tenths last year at most tracks was probably still good for second or third. Almost certainly good for second or third. But the way the field is this year, you can't be making mistakes like that. And I don't remember. I don't know if his qualifying laps were really sloppy, but I don't know. Bottas, he seems to have lost a step this year.
Has he lost a step or has everyone else gained a step? I don't know that Valtteri Bottas was ever a really good F1 driver. Like, he was a really good number 2 driver, not even a number 1A, number 2 driver to Lewis Hamilton, the greatest of all time. I mean, obviously you can talk about, Senna, whose career was cut tragically short. But certainly one of the greatest of all time and certainly the greatest of the modern era. There's
You're
Valtteri.
just giving it to him over Schumacher?
Yes, I'm giving it to him over Schumacher because he has more wins and more championships. That's why.
Same number of championships.
Oh, that's right. He broke the wins record. Same number of championships. I'm giving it to him. But I guess, I don't know. There was more parity. Anyway, one of the greatest of the modern era. And Bottas was just there, also driving a much better car than the rest of the field, safely sucking tail fumes from Lewis Hamilton 90% of the time. And every so often, something would go wrong, or the track would really suit him, or Lewis would be sipping on his macchiato like Sacha Baron Cohen in Talladega Nights, and Bottas would get one. But I think we might be seeing, as the field catches up with Mercedes technologically, that Valtteri Bottas might not be good enough to drive for AMG Petronas.
Yeah, and there was an incident that I'm sure anyone watching this knows what we're talking about, that we will get to a little later in the episode, but it's really bringing into question what next year holds for Bottas. But I want to take a look at just Hamilton versus Bottas specifically for this race. So qualifying, Hamilton's on pole, Bottas 8th, 4.5 tenths back. Another shout out to Visine. Then the race, Hamilton works his way up to second after a mistake. Got bailed out a little by the safety car, I would say, or a bit by the safety car, but it was still a great recovery drive to just be able to, collect himself and get back to it.
Bottas gets not his royal self, his sir self,
his sir
self.
And Bottas gets a DNF, and you can. I guess we're flirting around it, so we might as well just talk about the Bottas Russell incident now. Even no matter who you put more of personally, I think it's a racing incident. I don't think either of them should be penalized. I think the blame could go 60-40 either way. Looking at Bottas coming over a little, Russell not really giving the respect to the damp track on that outside line. But either way, the question still rises, why was Russell passing Bottas?
Why is a Williams even coming up on a Mercedes? That's the issue. But just to go back for a moment, it was a racing incident. Rubbin's racing, all right? We learned that in Days of Thunder from Robert Duvall, the famous Harry Hogg, okay? But if you have to put it on someone, it's on Russell. Like, I get it. He's aggressive. He's there. But Bottas didn't do anything wrong. He just sort of moved right to get into position to make the next left-hand turn, and Russell was there. He didn't give in, and they came together. But there was some not so happy exchanges of words and potentially hand signals going on after that. And then the best part was they showed it by accident. They showed Bottas flipping George Russell off, and then I think they apologized for it, and then they showed it again because whoever was running the sensor was like, we don't need to apologize for that. Let's just show it again.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we saw this coming back to Bottas. I think we saw it last year. These Mercedes are just meant to be running clean air. They've had this dominance. They designed their car. Dirty air affects them more. I mean, Hamilton, it doesn't because he's Lewis Hamilton. But Bottas, we can say, isn't an exceptional driver. He's a good enough driver to be in F1. He struggles to get through the field when he's in dirty air. Yeah, there's DRS trains, but you would still expect the Mercedes to cut through a field. And he couldn't get his tires going. Isn't a great look for Valtteri.
No. I have said it before and I will say it again. I think that we see George Russell in the AMG Mercedes at the latest 2023. And I think that this season it could be sooner because Verstappen is going to be all over Lewis this year, and Toto Wolff is going to want Lewis to have some help, and Valtteri Bottas may not be that help.
Yep, I agree. And they've got to look to their future, right? I mean, maybe a season with Hamilton and Russell, like we've talked about before, is what Russell really needs to take his driving to the next level.
Can we briefly discuss how Lewis Hamilton definitely met the devil at the crossroads and cut a deal? Yes. And instead of being able to wail on the guitar, he's able to podium no matter what happens. Like, asteroid hits the earth, Lewis Hamilton still podiums. Spice Girls get back together and become poet laureate, Lewis Hamilton still podiums.
It's hard to say otherwise, right? He got lapped down to I think 7th, and red flag
was 9th. Whatever it was,
it might have been 9th.
And then the red flag comes out because of Russell and Bottas, stops the race, and for reasons that we could not fathom, and I still don't get. During a red flag, you get to unlap yourself. Why do you get to do that?
There's got to be a reason, whether it be timing, whether it be safety. I don't know. I don't think it's fair. My personal opinion is that a red flag means that is trying to keep the race exactly how it was, and obviously you can't give people the gaps they had. But I'm a firm believer that you shouldn't be able to change tires like Stroll did in Monza last year. If you have front wing damage, you got to come in for a pit at the restart unless there's an obvious safety hazard. I think that a red flag should maintain exactly how the race was. Lapped cars should be lapped.
I think that it is clear that had Lewis been in first, so you know whose fault that was? It wasn't Valtteri's fault. It wasn't George Russell's fault. That accident was Lewis Hamilton's fault because if he were leading the race, it never would have happened.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If he were leading the race, Satan would have just been like kicking back, hanging out with Bernie Madoff, watching the race and watching Lewis win. But Lewis was a lap down, so Satan had to do his Satan thing, make the race explode, and then Lewis got to unlap himself.
But I think I've been reading through Formula One Twitter, And people like to point out, Lewis Hamilton fans like to point out that it doesn't always go his way. Remember in Monza when there was the red flag and he got the 10-second stop and go penalty or the drive-through penalty? He he deserved
They had
that
to point out
punishment for
one race.
breaking
They had
the
to point out
rules.
one race. That was great, Lewis Hamilton fans. Way to point out
Yeah.
the one race.
The last
ever.
the last mistake or something bad that happened to Lewis Hamilton that like actually mattered that I can remember is him beaching it in China in 2008 to not win his rookie world championship. That's the
Yeah.
And after that race, he went in his old McLaren race suit, made a deal with the devil, and has been perfect ever since.
And I mean, even stuff that has nothing to do with him. Last year when he had COVID and George Russell came and raced, and George Russell was ready to points, potentially win the damn race.
Oh, he was gonna win.
And then the Mercedes pit crew, the vaunted, amazing Mercedes AMG pit crew, put the wrong tires on the wrong cars with him and Bottas. So they had, like, does that possibly happen to Lewis Hamilton? That had nothing to do with George Russell, but that does not happen to, I don't know. Or maybe in a previous life, Lewis Hamilton just like went around saving babies from like burning orphanages. I don't know.
Maybe he's earned it.
Nothing bad can happen to this man.
All
Sir, at some point, Sir Lewis Hamilton. Knight of the British Empire.
We've talked about Mercedes. I want to talk about their closest rival, Red Bull, and the interesting weekend they have as a team had. So the McLarens or the Mercedes outpaced them in practice 1 and practice 2. Practice 2, Verstappen has like a drive shaft issue. Practice 3, he finishes on top, and then qualifying, shocker to everyone, Perez outqualifies Verstappen by like half a tenth. Starts on second. It looks like Perez is finally feels comfortable in the car. Finally going to put up good points.
Perez to finish on the podium felt really good about the whole freaking situation.
It felt really good. And then Perez starts second, starts in the front row, gets dropped to third in the first corner by a crazy start by Verstappen.
By Verstappen, who shot out of a cannon because he started in second gear.
Yep.
He got better grip on the wet because he started in second gear and didn't spin his wheels. I don't know how. Isn't that interesting though? So does Max decide that on his own? Because did Red Bull say, "Hey Max, try this and like keep it from Checo"? I hadn't thought about that.
I think it's an individual thing that he's done it before. I think a few years ago he did it before in the rain. It's just I think all starts are personal preference. Every driver does it differently, but maybe after that a lot more drivers are going to be thinking about that when it's wet and there's not a lot of traction. But then, so Perez gets dropped down to third and then just has an abysmal race. Just mistake after mistake, running wide, completely spinning, finishes outside the points in 12th behind both Alpines. Find Kimi Räikkönen just ahead of Yuki Tsunoda.
Be nice to Kimi.
I'm not saying anything about Kimi. I'm saying he's
behind Kimi Räikkönen, who like.
Oh, I'm sorry that a Red Bull should be finishing behind an Alfa Romeo.
No,
I'm sorry
saying,
that that's such a bad statement.
You said it like Kimi Räikkönen is this trash driver. The man's a world champion.
Obviously, Kimi Räikkönen is a phenomenal driver. I'm commenting more on the car's performance. But what is this with Perez? Is this him? Still, I mean, it's a challenging situation to be thrown into. Your second race in a new car, your first time in not dry conditions in this car, besides your photo op at Silverstone.
Gorgeous.
Like what? He's finished a minute behind Max after a red flag.
I mean, look, since we're talking about Satan and the supernatural, we got to bring it up. The Red Bull second seat curse. It bit Danny Rick. It bit Alex Albon. It bit Pierre Gasly.
Bit Mark Webber when they brought in Vettel.
It's just like it's the second seat.
I think Adrian Newey got his aerodynamic knowledge by telling Satan, "I will give you our second driver."
It's a lot.
If you just
Satan's doing a lot of business with Formula One.
there's a lot of Satan moves going on in F1.
It's just, do you think there's a direct line? Like, I just, hold on. Just,
It's not quite a direct line, but a lot of people know how to get in touch, I would say.
Jesus Christ.
So
Anyway,
what do you think? What do you think with Perez?
I don't know, man. He's such a good driver. We've seen him podium from everywhere. We've seen him win from the back. But it was like watching him drive yesterday was like, I have a 6-year-old nephew. And I feel like if I were to like take a whole thing of Fun Dip and dump it into a whole thing of Coke and then just like shake it up and shotgun it down his throat, and then he just like runs around crazy. That's what it was like watching Checo Perez drive yesterday. It was just, you never knew when he was going to spin out. Thank God they weren't at a track where there were any walls. If it were Monaco, he would have been gone in the third lap. I mean, I was concerned that either Mazepin or Vettel was going to be, crazy Ricky Bobby causing accidents. But like, it was Checo who was running around wreaking havoc in that Red Bull. I had no idea. I mean, I almost feel like you have to let it go because it was raining. Although the second half, it wasn't raining. And they were on slicks, and he still didn't make his way through. So, and the whole thing with Gasly staying on the rain tires and like putting 7 people in line behind him who just like one by one totally passed him. I don't know. I'm going to be interested to see where the lines are on Checo Perez going into the next race. He could be a value play if if Vegas thinks that this is not an aberration, because we know he's in a fast car. We saw his car's twin win the race. We know Checo can drive. He's not over the hill. He won the last race of last season. I don't know what to make of him. What do you make of Perez?
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's a race winner now. He's always been around and always had solid finishes. And that's why Red Bull was so attracted to him, right? They wanted consistency, but they have got no consistency out of him so far. He qualified P12 in Bahrain, got back up to 5th, qualifies 2nd here, finishes 12th.
And that's the crazy part, right? That's the thing. He has all the speed in the world. He's got Red Bull has a great car. That Honda power plant looks really good. And we know he can drive. He's the guy who can qualify P12 and land on the podium. But he's also the guy who can qualify P2 and land in the back mid of the field. It's man, the second seat at Red Bull.
Maybe he just needs to never go to Q3.
Well, we talked about this. We talked about, like, if you don't care, if you're one of those people who like zooms up through, just like save your tires and
yeah, go on the preferred tire for Q
whatever
for the start.
But it's one of the most interesting storylines to me is, where is Checo Perez going to end up in a there are 4 race cars out there that are better than the rest, the Red Bulls and the Mercedes, and he's in one of them. So, he's got the crew, they know what they're doing at Red Bull. Is Sergio Perez the guy who can drive in that 2 seat, turn it into the 1A seat, and then maybe force the hand of the suave, sexy, multi-bajillionaire Toto Wolff to make him make a move from Valtteri to protect Lewis? But if Sergio Perez is just hanging out in the back of the field all the day long,
yeah,
who knows?
Mercedes won't feel the threat. And one last thing on Red Bull that I wanted to ask you. Do you think Red Bull will they demand as much, and will they be so quick to action with Perez as they were with Gasly and Albon?
No.
So if you think that if Perez goes halfway through the season and isn't doing what they want, they won't cut him? You think they're
I don't think
hanging on?
Perez is going anywhere. I think short of continuous ridiculous driver error and like throwing pie at Christian Horner, there's nothing Checo can do, because they brought him on. He's relatively young. He's proven. Gasly and Albon weren't proven. I don't think that anyone was really so, because even when Gasly came up first, people were saying, should it be Albon? And then once Albon came up, people were saying, well, did they pull the trigger too fast on Gasly and send him back down? There was never really a favorite son there. They were both sort of the stepchild. And I think everyone knew that Red Bull, being Red Bull, was going to go out and sign someone, right? Was it Sainz? Was it, well, it wasn't going to be Ricardo, but like, I think that Sergio Perez has, barring something crazy, I think he's got the full season. I think he's probably got next season too.
You think if results don't follow, they won't go back to an Albon or another academy driver? Because if the results aren't coming, isn't it better to develop a younger driver and just take the poor results?
If he stops podiuming altogether, if he just turns into Sebastian Vettel, I guess. I don't know what his contract looks like. I would not be surprised if there was something in there about, not being able to drop him to AlphaTauri unless X. But like, I mean,
Well,
look,
I don't think they're going to drop him to AlphaTauri at all. I think they're very happy with their AlphaTauri lineup.
But if they were to push Gasly up, they'd have to see.
Okay.
So, I mean, look, if Gasly is lighting the world on fire, if Gasly is in an inferior car, which the AlphaTauri is, not inferior because it's bad, just it's not the main Red Bull, and Gasly is, P6 and up all the time, and Perez is finishing, low single digits out of the points, eventually is Red Bull going to do something? Sure, because it looks like they're going to be in a constructors race. So yeah, he could, but I think he's too good of a driver for that. I think we're going to see podiums, but consistency is the question. And that's the problem in the constructors, because you need more than Max, just like just like Mercedes is going to need more than Lewis. So this makes it very interesting to watch both Bottas and Checo for the rest of the year.
And you brought up Gasly. Let's talk about Gasly for a second in his turbulent race. So he starts up P5. Great qualifying for Gasly. Kind of showing the pace we all thought that the AlphaTauris were going to have after preseason testing. Decides to be one of like the 3 drivers that starts on the full wets and just doubles down on the choice.
Yeah,
stays out drops down to 18th at one point. Once he pits, he's down in 18th, and he worked his way back up to 8th. So a great drive by Gasly, which I don't think he wants to go back to the Red Bull parent team. I think he loves AlphaTauri. I think Red Bull left a bad taste in his mouth, but I think he had a pretty solid showing despite such a terrible, terrible start.
I just wish that we could have heard some of the pit chatter with Gasly and AlphaTauri. And by the way, for Formula One, I think that a great additional thing that people would pay for is access to some sort of web interface where you can switch between the channels and hear.
I think they offer that on F1 TV.
Do they?
I think they might. Not confirmed, but I'm pretty sure.
Because that this was not Pierre Gasly's choice. Sitting out there on the wets with no one else on the wets, just not making any time. It couldn't have been his choice. So what was that? Was that a mistake?
Well, I'm sure that's just the pit wall. Well,
right, but is that
that's the pit wall from the start of the race, thinking that more rain was going to be falling than was falling. That's them saying it's not falling now.
What about Yuki? They put him on the intermediates.
Yes, but it's two different teams basically within it. They each have their own little team within there, and they're trying to get a leg up, and then it's basically just them trying not to admit they were wrong for as long as possible. They did radio him saying, we see more rain coming, just hold on, there's going to be more rain. They're trying to talk themselves into it until they finally couldn't anymore.
I mean, I think that the qualifying and the driving that he did once he got slicks back on the car, that's the story of the race for Pierre Gasly. I think it was a fantastic race. I think that he is, I don't know about not wanting to go back to Red Bull. It is the big leagues, right? He's going to get more money there if they re-sign him. It's a superior car. If he can run in the top 6 in an AlphaTauri, is he a championship contender in the Red Bull Honda?
Well, you also have to remember that let's just say the earliest time he can switch is next season, when there are crazy new regulations that are supposedly going to bring everyone closer.
Right. And again,
so maybe he doesn't.
I don't think Checo Perez is going anywhere. But again, great drive for Gasly. I guess if it had poured again, maybe the AlphaTauri wall would look like geniuses. But man, give me some know when to hold them, know when to fold them, because
yeah. And let's look across the garage to Tsunoda. I'm not. He finished 13th. I'm not writing him off because of this performance, right?
I like Tsunoda.
It's his first time in F1. Him, Mazepin, Schumacher, all of their first times in an F1 car in the wet. And yeah, they've gone through F2, but it is a completely different beast to be in Formula 1. It's not awe-inspiring, his performance, but it's also not damning. I think there's still a lot to get used to. I think the Haas's won't be as far back at the end of the season. It's their first few races. Give them some time, and I think they'll be okay.
I like Yuki. I thought he had a good drive. I think AlphaTauri is very well positioned. The Haas's, I want to offer this to Gene Haas. How much does it suck? I don't know how much it sucks to be any billionaire, but if he cares about this program, Gene Haas has got to be the most pissed off billionaire in the world right now, because it is just what Williams was 3 years ago, Haas is now. It's to the point where you expect Haas to get dusted by Williams. You expect, except for Nicholas Latifi, who's just comedically bad at his job. But it's Tsunoda, good drive. Gasly, fantastic drive. I think AlphaTauri's got to be very happy. Red Bull's got to be happy, and maybe just a little, confused about Checo.
Yeah. And hey, if anyone down in the comments is a Latifi fan or a Mazepin fan, let us know. Disagree with us. We'd love to see some counterpoints, because we do just have confirmation bias.
Well, look, we'll talk about Haas later, but
we'll get there. We'll get there.
True or false? I could have done the Imola Grand Prix on my bicycle and gotten lapped maybe only 5 more times than the Haas drivers did yesterday.
Completely false. How fast do you drive that bike?
You're you know what? No, you're completely false. And you know what? Right. You know what? You know how I would prove it? I would go onto the BettorOff platform and the BettorOff app, and I would prove that you're completely false, instead of just sitting here blowing hot air and saying that you're false, and that I know that Latifi sucks, and I know that Mazepin sucks, and you'd actually get to check and see if I know what I'm talking about. And then you would look at my record that I don't know anything, because I lost all of my bets last week. And you would say, wow, I'm not joining his Formula One room, and I'm going to type in the YouTube chat that you're not fooling anyone with that comb over. We see that you're balding, Dubin. So just leave it be. And you can do all that stuff on the BettorOff app for the low price of nothing. $0. Which, if you want to do the exchange rate, because we have fans in Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Canada, the International Space Station, if you want to do the conversion, that's £0, €0, 0 pesos,
0 space dollars,
0 space bucks, 0. Exactly how many points Haas F1 is going to score this year.
Beautiful. 0. A big fat 0.
And you can find it in the iOS store, in the Google Play Store, at the barber shop, at a Taylor Swift concert.
Everyone's got it.
Everyone's doing it. All the cool kids are doing it.
It's the new cool thing.
It is the new cool thing.
All right. So we talked about the rookies, mostly Tsunoda, but I also mentioned Mazepin and Schumacher, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And then we also talked about Perez. These are the drivers new to their car, right? So who's remaining? We have Sebastian Vettel. We have Carlos Sainz, and we have Danny Rick. I want to get into Ferrari, but overall, I think Danny Rick and Carlos Sainz are putting Vettel and Perez to shame. Maybe Vettel not so much surprisingly, because after last year's performance and how the Aston's been doing. But Perez is in a faster car, is a good driver, but Carlos Sainz and Danny Rick are finishing 2-3 positions back from their teammate. They're being consistent, and they're not up to speed in their cars yet. And Sainz finished 5th, right? Yeah. Sainz finishes 5th, and he went off the track 2 or 3 times. I think Sainz had a phenomenal race. I think Leclerc would have been guaranteed a podium had there not been a red flag and Hamilton got to unlap himself. I think Ferrari is looking really, really good. This is their first double points finish since Mexico 2019. For over a season, this is the first time both Ferraris have scored points.
Yeah, Benatti definitely doing the Italian happy dance. It just, I don't know. I went heavy on Vettel, and he just let me down. He let me down so hard. He looked so bad. And then in the rain, where the veterans should have the upper hand, and in a good car, right? A top 10 car. Stroll put that car in the points. Sebastian Vettel when Hamilton was in the wall trying to find reverse, he still looked better than Sebastian Vettel on track. It was, I know that it was wet weather. I know that that's all I got. I know that it was wet weather, but until I'm seen otherwise, I'm done with Vettel. I think Vettel is just, he's done competing for the podium. He's to the point now where is he going to get out of P2? And is he going to be a top 10 driver? But he's not going to support Lance Stroll.
Yeah, I think I want to get into Aston Martin in what I want to say the lower midfield in a little bit, but I want to
Ferrari.
Yeah, I want to talk about Ferrari. Leclerc qualifies 4th. Sainz qualifies 11th, doesn't make it into Q3, but finishes 5th. Leclerc finishes 4th, would have been 3rd in a different world.
Sainz is another driver who, like Perez, can work his way through the field, and we've seen it.
You see it time and time again.
It is nice to see the Ferrari be the Ferrari. I'm not a huge Ferrari fan. It's a front runner thing, right? Manchester United, the New York Yankees, Ferrari, fine. But unquestionably, Formula One is better when Ferrari is good. And seeing Leclerc there, seeing Sainz there, it makes it more interesting. It would be nice to see them competing with Red Bull and Mercedes, but at the moment, if you're Ferrari, I guess you've got to be happy. My feeling is Enzo Ferrari would not be happy,
No.
right? The idea that there is some solace in being in the points and like competing sort of for the podium, that's not Ferrari, right? Enzo Ferrari would be losing his mind because he was all about performance and winning. And so if you're a Ferrari purist, then, and you're thinking back to the Schumacher days and the James Hunt days and the Niki Lauda days, like, of course, this is not the Ferrari that you remember, but it's definitely a step forward. And Leclerc is showing that they made a good call buying him young, and taking him up from Alpha, and Sainz is looking like he, people weren't sure, right? McLaren is going to be strong. Are you upgrading by going from McLaren to Ferrari? And it looks like he may have been. So as long as you're not the Ferrari championship or bust purist, you got to be happy with the Scuderia car right now.
Well, I think that your mention of McLaren is interesting because right now, 2 races in, obviously nothing's set in stone. It really looks like that midfield fight from last year has completely torn into 2. It looks like Ferrari and McLaren are on one side, and Alpine, Aston Martin. It looks like Alfa Romeo's in there, Toro Rosso or AlphaTauri. It really looks like there's Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, McLaren, and then the rest. Do you think that's going to keep up? Do you think that it's just, we don't have enough races yet to really see the true pace of some of these cars? Or are you like me?
Yeah, I don't think we have enough race. I'm sorry. What do you think?
Well, I think it's clear that it's a 2-horse race for 3 and 4 in the constructors right now.
Yeah, I don't think it's clear. I think we saw the first race of the season, and then we saw a rainy race where we had 4 safety cars and Satan intervening on behalf of Lewis Hamilton. I don't see it, and I don't think we're there yet. I thought
what convinced me was Hamilton's charge to the field. Leclerc kept Hamilton behind for 3 or 4 laps. Lando keeps Hamilton behind for 6 or 7 laps. I just don't see Alpine, AlphaTauri, Aston Martin even being able to do it for 2.
Yeah, well, Alpine is a problem, right? And I wonder how much this speaks to the skill of Daniel Ricciardo, because Alpine is the new Renault, right? Same team, new colors. They just don't, Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso is Alpine.
He's Alpine. Yep.
Right. It's sad. It's sad to me to see Fernando Alonso doing this. I'm not much on legacy. I like the idea that you race until you're done racing, and anyone who doesn't like it can take a walk. But this watching Fernando Alonso just struggle this way, it's hard. I thought Aston Martin was going to be competitive this year. I thought Vettel was going to be good. I like what I'm seeing from Stroll, but like they're having mechanical issues, right? Vettel had brake failure and had to start from the pits. Stroll was talking about how the wheel was turning itself, which means that the car might be.
We didn't see this. Stroll's brakes were like on fire leaving the pit lane before the race.
Yeah, they were telling him to go through they were telling him. They told Hamilton also. They were telling all these guys to cool off by going through water, which is pretty funny. But yeah, the mechanical issues that we thought were gone from Racing Point Aston Martin are kind of back. I get that, but I don't know. I think AlphaTauri has something to show us. Gasly is clearly a force. I think that Tsunoda can be a good driver. I get it. Probably you're betting on Ferrari and McLaren next, but I'm not sure that it's all settled just yet.
Well, you brought up Stroll. I think Stroll had a great race. Um, there were issues plaguing both of the Aston Martins, and he falls his way to seventh. And if give it a lap or two, he probably gets sixth. He chased down
Oh.
Danny Rick in a
Somebody
really
had
good
money
McLaren.
on him top 6.
Don't worry, we'll get to your bets. I think he chased down a really competitive McLaren. Granted, Danny Rick is still coming to grips with it. Um, I don't know. I was impressed by him. I think he handled the car well in the poor weather. We've seen it before from him. Um, yeah, I think
With zero help. With
with
Sebastian
yeah,
Vettel basically just
I
like,
think we're gonna see a very similar situation from Ferrari last year at Aston Martin this year, where you have the young gun consistently outperforming his car and his teammate.
yeah. I mean, do we see Alex Albon back in an F1 seat in the Aston Martin next year? Like, because it was,
I think that would
Albon
be a good team is of Stroll and
Albon
Albon.
is Albon's out, and I feel the same way about Albon as I felt about Esteban Ocon when he got pushed out of then Force India, then Racing Point, then whatever. Um, and now Ocon is back with Renault, now Alpine. It feels like maybe Albon was unfairly or unreasonably bumped, and the next time that there's an opening, because Ocon did a year as the test driver and the number one backup for Mercedes, where Albon is doing his, walkabout year, and would be an interesting target for Lawrence Stroll if Sebastian Vettel just keeps underperforming like this. It's not a good look for the James Bond car.
Yep. And I think we touched on Russell beforehand. It looked like he was going for some points. I don't think we have to talk about Williams that much. It was a very Williams day. Uh, Especially we're running low on time. I want to get to our bets soon. But
Can we very quickly bravo Lando Norris?
I completely forgot about Lando. I don't know how I could have done that. Bravo to Lando. What a race from P7. P7.
To the podium.
Guaranteed second. I mean, him and Leclerc probably would have fought, but second or third guaranteed without Hamilton coming through. Like, he looked phenomenal.
Yep, McLaren's got to be happy. Zach Brown, an American in charge of a British racing empire. All right there, buddy. Well done.
Yep.
We're excited to see McLaren, man. Lando and Danny Rick.
Yep.
Very, very interesting.
And one more point before we get to our bets. Is Haas too bad to bet on? Are they too unpredictable? Do you just never know what's coming?
I think it is possible that they're so bad that they're bettable. That, they're going to get left in the dust on such a regular basis that betting that their drivers finish the race is basically just betting that the car doesn't implode and that they don't spin out all on their own. Because they are so far away from rubbing and, overtakes that, Schumacher and Mazepin aren't going to, run into anyone unless Lewis Hamilton buzzes them while lapping them from behind. So as long as you think that the Haas is structurally sound and that neither of them are just going to lose control of the car, I think they're both interesting picks to finish the races because they're basically just out there pushing a baby in a stroller on a sidewalk.
Yep. I am tending to agree with you. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I'm excited to see the lines as the season progresses. So we're gonna run through our bets, but I know these are just gonna be our F1 bets, and I know I make bets on Premier League and the NHL. Alex, do you know where
I like
people
betting
could
on MLB.
Yeah, do you know where people could find other bets?
MLB Moneyline. Where else can they find bets? And like have them be verified so that it's not just, I caught a fish this big and you're just like, that's stupid. We're talking about betting. If only there were a place where you could go to see if Harrison knows EPL or if I actually know Major League Baseball.
Actually, I think I've been working on something with you for the past year now. It's called BettorOff, and it's on the App Store and Google Play Store.
Oh, I thought you meant that thing where we buy the Mega Stuff Oreos and then we turn them and then we do a double Mega Stuff, which is a Quadra Stuff Oreo. But
you're just telling everyone our second business venture. But no, we're talking about the first one.
Right.
And it's free. It's completely free, and it's on the App Store.
But you can't actually see people's histories free.
You
open it up and you see the lock and the gray screen, right? You can't see anything.
No, you can see everyone's pick histories, break down their picks based off sport, bet type, date, compare them with yourself, comment on their picks and say they're terrible. You can do whatever you want. Comment on their picks and tell them you're good. You can find Alex and social? There's a social aspect to this? Yes. If you're trash, as we'll see, you control you. Or I control you.
You control me?
Absolutely. I can comment on all your picks and tell you that you shouldn't be betting.
You missed that. Our viewers heard control and you heard cantrol, but it was clever. But back to my point. This BettorOff app. What faraway land do I have to travel to and make 3 stops on an airline and ride a yak through the mountains to get to?
It's a long journey. You gotta sit down.
I can do that.
You gotta pull out your phone and you gotta type in BettorOff with 2 O's.
Together? Because wouldn't that be BettorOff?
No. Better with an O, off with an O. Put them together, you get BettorOff. Search it, find it, download it, sign up all for free. Track your bets. It'll be a good time.
This is amazing. This sounds like the sort of thing that you and I should dump our lives into and totally risk everything to support.
Honestly, it's an idea that I think is worth doing that.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, so now it's finally the time of the show to show what we officially bet on last week and how we each did. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
This is like that 3-year span where I was the youngest in the family and had to do the 4 questions on Passover, and I just wanted to leave the table, but I couldn't.
Would you like me to go first?
No, let's just get me out of the damn way.
All right, let's run through Alex's picks. Alex had.
Yes, let's run.
How would you describe your weekend of betting?
Not dissimilar to my weekend of trying to get Katie Nolan to go out with me.
All right, let's start off. Number 1, you got Hamilton to win at -110.
Even Satan did not want me to win.
I think he was looking good. It was a close race. He closed the gap on Verstappen towards the end of the stint with the intermediates. Unfortunately, went off. Made his way back to second, but the start, I think the start was really kind of sealed that one.
0 for 1.
0 for 1. Let's go to the second one. I think this was the baddest beat you've had. Stroll top 6 plus 550. Finishes 7th. Let's get the official timing. Less than 7 tenths behind Ricardo. Me and you both thought he was going to get it. We were pushing for it, even though I'm a Ricardo fan.
I had $100 down at plus 550. That erases everything.
Yeah, that gets all of your money back. All right. Then you had your string of fastest lap bets. Lando fastest lap at plus 1,800. Stroll fastest lap at plus 15,000. And Vettel fastest lap at plus 25,000.
Okay, so part of this was because of the whole red flag situation where there wasn't a large enough gap between the podium and everyone else, or the points and everyone else, for anyone to burn the 26 seconds that you lose going into the pits to put on the red stripes for the last lap.
Yeah.
That needs to be there, right? You need the full gap. And when you have a red flag with so few laps, there was no room for anyone in the points to put enough space between them and anyone else to do that.
Yeah,
So
and you never know what happens with Stroll or Lando. I think Lando probably the best chance. You never
right.
know what happens
So
between him and Leclerc.
I'm actually not mad at the Lando and Stroll losses. It was a red flag. It was a massive wreck, and had the race gone whatever you want to call it, normally, either of them could have paid off. And I still like plus 1,800 for Lando, who clearly was fast, and plus 15,000 for Stroll, who clearly was fast. Sebastian Vettel at plus 25,000, which I thought was a deal, should have been plus 74 million, because watching him drive that race car, the idea that he was going to be the fastest, they could have taken his tires off and put 4 jet engines on there and wings, and he still was not going to be the fastest car. I got burned. I learned the hard way. 3 more losses takes us to 0-5.
All right, then you have, I think we both got screwed out of this one. We all said there was going to be a VSC, a virtual safety car, at plus 100. Unfortunately, there wasn't. We just need someone. We just need someone to beach it. But no, everyone got out of the gravel.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the VSC versus the regular safety car, right? Like, on a track where there's so much space, you think, oh, there'll be VSC because they'll have plenty of room to clear. But that's just not how it worked. And the fact that it was plus money means that Vegas once again knew something that we didn't.
Yeah, they're good at what they do.
I thought I'm not angry at that bet, but 0 for 6.
All right. Something that affected both of us, over 16 and a half drivers to finish, plus 100. Vettel retires the second to last lap because the gearbox is going. That I think I specifically said last week that they wouldn't retire the car if they see a small problem, and that didn't happen. So let's keep running.
Yeah, well, they had the bigger problem to worry about, which was Sebastian Vettel is not a good race car driver. But like I was actually surprised that this got as close as it did, because the way everyone was spinning around in the rain, you figure that 16 and a half, like that was the first thing I thought was gone. And then, but again, Imola, such huge runoff area that you can be like Carlos Sainz and basically spend a third of your day playing in the sand and then come back in points. But yes, heartbreak at plus 100, that would have been a nice little cash. But Aston Martin, those cars, bad brakes, bad gearbox, bad bunny, just
all of it.
All right. Over.
Then you had Hamilton to win in Lando points as a kind of parlay, right. Plus 140. Hamilton screwed you again there. Then you got screwed again by Mazepin. Lando top 6, Mazepin to retire at plus 165. We thought it was going to happen when Mazepin spun at the end.
What we learned was that, again, Mazepin finished the race roughly 2.5 hours after Max Verstappen. So, like, again, as long as the Haas car didn't just implode, there wasn't much that was going to stop Mazepin from finishing. But, I love both of my Lando bets. Damn it.
And then Red Bull double podium, AlphaTauri double points, Leclerc top 6, all together at plus 600.
Yeah, that one missed. So that one missed because Checo Perez, I don't know, did his Checo Perez thing where he wasn't, because it looked so good. It looked so good for a minute where they were 2 of the top 3, and then Gasly got slicks on, and Tsunoda was actually moving up the field, and Leclerc was going to top 6, and then Tsunoda dropped. Perez did his Jekyll and Hyde thing, and 0 for 9 or 10 or
so an something. 0 for 10 for minus 10 units to start off the season. Only up from here. Only up.
I mean, I guess.
All right, so now we can go to my picks. I fared a little bit better. I went 6-4 for a total of 1.96 units gained. I had Verstappen to win after qualifying at plus 175. Stroll for the top 10 at minus 160. I know last week you said you don't like minus money. Maybe you should like minus money. Both for
I still don't like minus money, and we'll talk for a moment after this about the lines that we were discussing versus the lines that we took, because the line movement from Wednesday before P1, before practice day 1 on Thursday, and before race day was dramatic.
Yep.
But let's go through you and then get to that.
And then I had for both Ferraris to finish in the top 10 at minus 165. That was a win. Then I had Bottas and Perez fastest laps, each at plus 400. Both lost. I had winning car would be a Red Bull at plus 110. That one, I went, besides Alex's suggestion last episode, that Mazepin would finish the race at plus 125. That one. Lando top 6, minus 160. That one. I said yes to a virtual safety car. That lost. And I had both Aston Martins just to finish the race at minus 165, which Vettel screwed me out of. So that's 6-4. Like I said, 60% for about 2 units gained. Yeah, let's talk about what you want to talk about, line movement. It was crazy from when we released on Saturday before qualifying, or when we recorded on Friday. It was, the line movement was crazy. I think I said I liked Verstappen at plus 125. I got him at 175. You liked Hamilton at 125. It dropped down to minus 110 by the time you made the bet. I remember McLaren, both cars finished in the top 10, start at like minus 150. That was minus 250 by race time. It was dramatic.
We'll talk next show about when to pick.
All right, so if we're looking at the Portuguese Grand Prix, right now the lines, we'll go for the big four. Hamilton's plus 125. Verstappen is plus 125. Perez plus 800. Bottas plus 800. So they're kind of saying that Hamilton, Verstappen are the same, Bottas and Perez are the same. I don't know what to think. I don't know if there's either of the second drivers have shown us that they're even worth that value right now.
So right now, I would hedge the winners. I'd put 100 down on Lewis, and I'd put 100 down on Max. Lose one, win one, and end up making $25.
We've talked about that before. The two value.
What's that?
We've talked about that strategy before. Yep. Yeah, if they're going to keep doing this.
The two values that I really like right now are Leclerc and Lando. But
plus 3,300 for each.
Yeah, but less Lando until Lando shows us he can win. But Charles Leclerc, who has shown us he can win at plus 3,300, I like that a lot.
Okay, and then there are some future bets I want to discuss real fast before we end. For the Drivers' Championship, I think we can say it's a 2-horse race pretty safely. Hamilton's minus 140, Verstappen's plus 110. Hamilton has a 1-point lead, I believe, 1 or 2-point lead after Imola. I think this is just talking to Hamilton's consistency, right? Verstappen, we've never seen him put together a really competitive season because they haven't had that opportunity to, and they don't know how he will do. I think there is value at Verstappen plus money.
Oh, so look, again, I've said I love Lewis plus money all the time. I don't love Lewis minus 140. If I have to put down money on the Drivers' Championship right now, I'm putting down money on Max at plus 110 and getting the odds rather than Lewis at minus 140. Even though head to head, I'll take Lewis, but you're giving plus money on a guy who just won a race going away. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that this spread, I think it's weird. I think the bookmakers are doing it because of experience, but And then obviously you have Perez and Bottas tied at plus 3,300. So a shot
It's
in the
giving
dark. Yeah.
way too much credit to Val. I put Leclerc in front of him. I put Lando in front of him. I might even put Danny Rick in front of him.
And then based off what you just said, you think Perez is going to start outperforming Bottas. Constructors Championship, Mercedes is minus 200, Red Bull's plus 150.
I mean, that's Checo bet, right?
Yeah, it's basically a Checo versus Verstappen.
Do you like Checo versus Bottas? And that seems like Red Bull all day long to me at plus money.
Plus, sorry, go ahead.
That's a huge spread.
Yeah,
a huge spread. You have to play 1 to 2 to get paid on Mercedes. You're getting 1.5 to 1 to go Red Bull.
Yeah. And if you like Verstappen at plus 110, I think you've got to like Red Bull here at plus 150.
Especially if you're bearish on Val. Especially if you're bearish on Valtteri Bottas.
And then the last bet, which I think is going to be the most interesting bet or story that we continue to cover, it's the championship winner without any Mercedes or any Red Bull. So no Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, or Perez. The leader right now is Lando at plus 165, and then Leclerc plus 175. I think this is a hedging opportunity.
I think it's a hedging opportunity. The best value that I see here is Danny Rick at plus 450, which is crazy. Yep. But I would probably spread it across those three: Lando, Leclerc, and Ricciardo. Again, I might leave it off Lando. He's young. We haven't seen it yet. We've seen it from Leclerc. We've seen it from Ricciardo. I'm probably putting down money on Charles Leclerc and Danny Ricciardo at plus 175 and plus 450 for this.
Okay. And I'm excited to see how these lines change throughout the season.
Yeah.
All right. Now it is everyone's favorite time of the episode, begging rich people for money. Last week, it was the Toto Wolff episode.
I think that we are soliciting.
We're soliciting people for money.
We are soliciting with no bargaining power at all, which is kind of begging.
That's exactly how you want to solicit. Last week it was the Toto Wolff episode.
Oh,
this week we got to give it to someone
Toto Wolff give us money?
No, not that I can see, but we'll see. This week we're asking someone who we know is feeling good after the Imola Grand Prix, Christian Horner, team principal at Red Bull Racing. Mr. Horner, you just got off a big win, and we know you're feeling good about the championship. You can play coy. You can play coy and say, you know what, Mercedes have a good car, but we know you're excited. You're getting flashbacks to the Vettel years of Red Bull.
We know. We also know that you're married to a Spice Girl. What's not to be happy about?
You have a happy life, and I think that we can make it better with BettorOff.
Yeah, make it better with BettorOff. And you know what? Harry made a pretty slick BettorOff Benz last week. But I think that the BettorOff Bull car could be something special.
Oh.
All right?
We're locking it in. It's going to be special.
The BettorOff Bull is just going to be, 3, 2, 1, bang!
It's right there.
BettorOff Bull. There it is. Chris, how can you say no to that? Jerry Halliwell, which Spice Girl was she? Sporty? No.
It's before my time.
Not scary. Whatever. Anyway, Jerry, get your man in, because it's going to be fun, and we're awesome, and come on. Some sponsorship money.
Look, we're not saying it has to be you specifically. We know, Toto Wolff has $500 million. It's okay. Red Bull. Okay. We'll take it. You want us to drink Red Bull all podcast?
We'll drink Red Bull.
We will go off the walls drinking Red Bull all podcast.
I love Red Bull.
Yeah, I love Red Bull too. I always have.
Red Bull.
Yeah. I visited the Red Bull NASCAR factory when I was like 13. I'll find a picture. It'll be down there, baby Harry in a NASCAR.
Be amazing. And
Yeah.
and you'll get to connect yourself to the quality product that is
Better off. Yes, sir.
available in the App Store, the Apple iOS Store, the Google Play Store, everywhere.
Everywhere
Subscribe
you
to our
find
channel, like it, dislike it. You can everyone's like, you can dislike. I'm not telling you to like us.
Just engagement. Comment below.
Yeah,
We'd love
whatever.
to hear what we got wrong this week.
Tell
I'm
us
sure
how you
we
feel.
did. I'm sure everyone has their own betting opinions and will tell us where money should be going, where our money shouldn't be going. But yeah, leave those comments, like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. And I think that's it for us this week.
That is it for us this week. And George Russell and his butt, sponsored by Ferragamo.
Yes, sir. So that has been the Better Off Podcast. Thank you guys for listening. I've been Alex.
So much.
Enjoy
Wait,
yourself.
You're Alex?
Be safe. Oh, I'm Harry. That's Alex.
You're Harry. I'm Alex.
Harry. All right.
Wear masks.